last several hours, our firefighters have been fighting a really intense battle. Around 11 o'clock last night, 000 calls were received about a fire in a facility in North St Mary's. Crews, before they arrived, there was already large amounts of smoke and flame coming from the scene. A very significant call for resources was made. It's actually escalated up to a request for a 20th alarm. We've got 50 fire trucks here of various types. We've got lots of fire engines and other specialist vehicles. We've got 5 aerial appliances at work, and so they're the water towers working above and across the scene and putting large volumes of water onto the fire. There's been some amazing firefighting going on. We've had an incredibly large explosion, and so luckily all of our firefighters were able to be safe through that. But people in the surrounding area for many hundreds of metres would have heard the explosion. A large fireball came up out of the scene, erupted into the sky, probably 100 to 150 metres above the scene. So a very intense event. And then firefighters in the vicinity of the fire were showered with rocks and debris as debris that had been dislodged from the explosion came showering down on top of them. So again, firefighters were able to maintain their safety, thankfully, and they're doing amazing work protecting the surrounding properties. So we've had a very intense fire in that facility, but they're doing everything they can, and there's a real battle going on to keep the fire out of those other properties. We've had some places where the neighbouring walls have been breached from a result of the explosion and the intensity of the fire. The firefighters are in those occupancies with lines of hose, keeping the fire at bay and stopping it from coming in and spreading into those properties that are otherwise uninvolved.
They're working from holes in the wall to force back the flames.
That's it. It's firefighters in quite close quarters battle with the fire. They're using whatever advantage they can find, either from the sprays of water from overhead with the ladder platforms, or putting themselves between the fire and the buildings, and then in those buildings that have been compromised, they're in there and in the breaches, stopping the fire from penetrating in with the lines of hose, protecting the property.
Fair to say we haven't seen a fire like this, particularly in Western Sydney, for many years.
Oh, this is as big as the fires get, particularly the scale of that explosion. People will be talking about that for a long time. Very significant demonstration of the ferocity of the fire and how quickly things can become very serious. Thankfully, the firefighters have been able to sustain a really strong attack. We've had fire trucks from all across Sydney working here for several hours, and there'll be several hours of work to come as well. So we'll be going well into the daylight hours.
And a hazmat emergency at the same time?
Yes, so a complicated scene with a range of different materials involved in the fire. Firefighters are working to not only extinguish the fire but then also manage any of the other consequences. One of the challenges we have is the smoke plume that's come up. We've had our drones with special chemical detectors attached to them flying through the area around the fire and monitoring the chemical levels in the atmosphere and being able to provide accurate and timely advice to members of the community. And then we're also managing the runoff from the fire, and so there's a large volume of water. It's a very challenging exercise to contain or manage that water. Unfortunately, a lot of that water has entered the stormwater network, and we'll be working with the EPA and the local councils to manage that as best we can from here.
What advice would you give those residents, particularly in relation to air quality?
Yeah, so with reassurance that we've been able to detect the areas that are in the vicinity of the fire that are residential areas are far enough away so that there's no more extreme or serious threat. Standard advice that others will apply, where we're encouraging people to keep their windows and doors shut and avoid exposure to any of the smoke.
So what can you tell us about the business itself, or what's involved in that factory and what may have contributed to that explosion?
Yeah, so it's some sort of a chemical recycling facility, a processing facility. There's a range of different chemicals stored or being handled on the site, and obviously they've all become involved in the fire. So having a good awareness of the hazardous materials element, an understanding of what we need to be focusing on and any of the potential consequences there has been front of mind for our incident management team.